Welcome to the Shorten anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of Battle Through the Heavens. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. Battle Through the Heavens, Season 1, Episode 3. Emotionlessly leaving the main hall, the frustrated Xiaoyan followed his daily routine and slowly climbed to the top of the mountain behind the clan building. Sitting at the top of the mountain, Xiaoyan calmly watched the steep mountaintops far away, being shrouded in mist. There in the mist was the Jiama Empire's famous Magic Beast mountain range. Heh, power, In this world without power, you're not even worth some excrement. At least no one tries to trample on excrement. With shoulders waving up and down, the young man's soft, self-taunting voice echoed across the top of the mountain, filling the air with sadness. Yanking his hair, Xiaoyan bit down on his lip, allowing the bloody taste to spread in his mouth. Even though he didn't let his emotions get to him in the main hall, the Nalan Yanran's words stabbed at his heart like knives. "I will never be insulted like this again." Opening his left hand, which still had the bloody scar from the events of the day, Xiaoyan's voice was hoarse but firm. "Haha, kid, looks like you need some help." Right when Xiaoyan pledged his oath, a wizened, strange laugh entered his ear. Xiaoyan's face changed and he immediately turned around. With a hawk-like gaze, he scanned his surroundings but didn't even find a shadow. "Stop searching, I'm on your finger." Right when Xiaoyan thought that he was hallucinating, the strange laugh aimlessly sounded again. Xiaoyan's eyes contracted and his gaze fell on his right hand's black ring. "You're talking?" Enduring his heart's pounding, Xiaoyan tried to keep his voice calm. "Kid, you're quite calm to not have been scared witless." From the ring, a taunting voice sounded. "Who are you? Why are you in my ring? What are you trying to do?" After calming himself, Xiaoyan asked the essential questions. "Who am I? You don't need to know. I won't harm you." Ha 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 ha. "After all these years, I finally found someone with a soul strong enough. What luck." "I should thank you for your offerings over the past 3 years. Otherwise, I would probably still be sleeping." "Offerings?" Xiaoyan blinked his eyes in confusion. After a moment, his face darkened, and chilling words jumped out of his teeth with difficulty. "My Du Qi disappearing. You did that?" "Heh, I had to do that. Kid, don't be mad at me." The normally calm and composed Xiaoyan became enraged like a lunatic. His small face was filled with savagery, and without caring that the ring was the only memento of his mother, he ripped the ring off of his finger and flung it over the cliff with all of his might. As the ring left his hand, Xiaoyan's mind finally cleared. Hurriedly, he tried to catch the flying ring, but the ring had already passed Cliff, free falling down the mountain. Staring at the ring disappearing into the mist, Xiaoyan was stunned for a long time. Finally, his face lost its savagery and calmed. He smacked his forehead, upset. Idiot, that was too reckless. Too reckless. To realize that the culprit of his humiliation for the past 3 years was the ring he always wore. It was unsurprising that Xiaoyan reacted so violently. After sitting at the edge of the cliff for a long time, Xiaoyan helplessly shook his head. Standing up, he prepared to go back, but his eyes widened and his finger shakily pointed at the thing in front of him. In front of Xiaoyan was the pitch-black ring floating in the sky. But the thing that surprised Xiaoyan the most was the transparent, wizened figure above the ring. "Heh, kid, you don't need to be so mad, do you? I only took 3 years of your Du Qi." The transparent elder smiled at the stunned Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan's mouth twitched, and he pushing down his anger. He said, "Geezer, since you were hiding within the ring, then you should know how much pain you've caused me since you took my Du Qi, right? But with these 3 years of humiliations, you've matured, right? Do you think that 3 years ago you would have had this kind of tolerance and mindset?" Xiaoyan furrowed his brows, but his emotions started to calm down. After the rage, a hint of happiness took over Xiaoyan. Since he knew why his Du Qi was disappearing, his talent had returned. Thinking about the chance to take off the title of crippled that countless others had put on him, Xiaoyan felt as if he had been reborn. The detestable elder in front of him didn't look as annoying as before. Some things, after they disappear, would make one start appreciating their value. After losing and regaining it, one treasures it more. Lightly twisting his wrist, Xiaoyan let out a long breath and said, "Even though I don't know who you are, I would like to know if you plan on staying in the ring to steal my du qi. If that's the case, then I would ask for you to find a new owner. I can't afford to keep on raising you." Hey, other people don't have as strong of soul perception as you." The elder stroked his beard. "Since I already chose to appear, then before you give me permission, I won't take your du qi." Xiaoyan rolled his eyes and sneered without saying anything. He had already decided, regardless of anything the elder says, he would not keep that ring by his side. "Kid, do you want to become strong? Do you want to be respected by others?" Even though Xiaoyan had already decided to not have anything more to do with the elder, his heart started beating rapidly when he heard those words. "I already know why my du qi was disappearing, and with my talent, why do I need you to become strong?" Letting out a small breath, Xiaoyan smoothly said, he knew that there were no free lunches in this world. To owe a mysterious person a favor isn't a smart move. "Kid, even though your talent is pretty good, you should know that you're already 15, but your du qi is only at 3-1. I think that I heard that your adult ceremony is next year, right? Do you think that within a year, using your talent and hard work, you can get to 7-1 qi? In addition, the girl who you promised to fight 3 years from now doesn't have shabby talent either. You want to catch up and surpass her? It's not going to be easy." The elder's face that was full of wrinkles blossomed like a chrysanthemum. "If you didn't take my du qi, then do you think that any of this would have happened? You old fucker." After his biggest weakness was exposed, Xiaoyan's face darkened once again, and he started to curse. After cursing, Xiaoyan felt a hint of despair. In his current situation, no matter how much he cursed, there would be no effect. The practice of du qi required a strong foundation. Back when he was 4, it took him 6 years to get to 9-1 du qi. Even with his talent, getting to 7-1 qi in just 1 year was hopeless. Sighing depressedly, Xiaoyan glanced at the pretentious elder. The edge of his mouth curled and he asked, "Do you have a solution?" "Maybe." The elder vaguely replied, "If you help me to get to 7-1 qi in just 1 year, then I'll forgive you for taking my du qi for 3 years. How's that?" Xiaoyan probingly asked. Wishful thinking, kid. If you can't help me, then why should I keep you, someone useless, by my side? You should find another unfortunate person." Xiaoyan knew that the transparent elder couldn't randomly take du qi from other people, so he knew that he had some leverage in the negotiations. "You're not even remotely close to a 15-year-old young man. Looks like these 3 years really helped you grow a lot. Did my plan backfire?" Looking at the clever Xiaoyan, the elder paused and then dumbfoundedly shook his head. Xiaoyan shrugged his shoulders and lightly said, "If you want me to keep you by my side, then you should at least have some sincerity, right?" What a sharp-mouthed kid. All right. After all, I do need your help." Without another choice, the elder nodded and slowly came to the ground. After examining Xiaoyan for a while, a treacherous smile spread across his face. But as soon as it appeared, it left, and the elder pondered for a moment before unwilling asking, "Do you want to become an alchemist?" Hearing the elder's words, Xiaoyan paused before continuing. "In the Doqi mainland, everyone wants to become an alchemist. But is it that easy to become an alchemist? There are so many harsh requirements." Suddenly, Xiaoyan's voice fell, and he raised his head. "I met the requirements?" Enjoying the shocked yet excited expression that Xiaoyan showed, the elder stroked his beard slowly. After looking over Xiaoyan for a few more seconds, he finally said with some helplessness, "Even though you barely make the cut, I owe you a favor." Whatever. I'll let this count as the favor returned." Looking at the reluctant elder, Xiaoyan thought that the geezer was lying about him barely making the cut, but he was too lazy to probe further. Despite his excitement, he still had his suspicions. "Even if I make the cut, alchemists are taught by other alchemists. Are you an alchemist?" Looking at the suspicious little face of Xiaoyan, the elder straightened, and with pride he said, "Yup, I'm an alchemist." Blinking his eyes, Xiaoyan's gaze at the elder became bright. "Alchemists? Those are really rare. Mister, if you don't mind me asking, what rank alchemist were you before?" Xiao Yan licked his lips and his young voice was infused with a hint of respect. In Duchi mainland, even though alchemists were very rare, there were still differences between alchemists. From low to high, the stages for alchemists range from the lowest, 1, to the highest, 9. The Pilkingu He that made the gathering chi powder that Nalan Yanran offered was a 6th-stage alchemist, and within the Jia Ma Empire, he could be considered to be the top alchemist. What stage? Hey, I don't remember. Hey kid, do you want to learn it or not? The elder impatiently asked while shaking his head. Of course I want to. Xiao Yan didn't hesitate anymore and hurriedly nodded with his small head. Alchemists, even with forces as powerful as faction of misty clouds, were treated with respect and deference. Hey, you want to? Since you want to, then you should pay your respects to your teachers. The elder sat on a green rock and coiled his legs beneath himself. I need to pay my respects to my teacher? Ridiculous. To not pay your respects and still expect me to teach you all that I know? You're dreaming. The elder rolled his eyes. Looks like the pedantic elder really cared about these student-teacher relationships. Helpless with a dour face, Zhao Yan could only respectfully pay his respects to the elder to become an honorable alchemist. After watching Xiao Yan finish paying his respects, the elder finally nodded his head, satisfied. In his voice, a hint of intimacy appeared. My name is Yao Lao. As for my origin, you don't need to know for now so that you don't get distracted. All you need to know is that the Pill King is only trash in my eyes. The edges of his mouth twitching, Xiaoyan watched the elder's carefree expression and thought, what is this geezer? The famous Pill King Gu He and Jama Empire is only trash? If this spreads, then the whole of Jiama would probably assume that he's mentally ill. Lightly taking in a breath and pushing down his shock, Xiaoyan's eyes darted around, and with some droll, he asked, teacher, how will you help me to get to 7 Duan Qi within 1 year? Even though for the past 3 years your Du Qi has always been declining, your foundation in Du Qi is much firmer than other people. In Du Qi training, the foundation is the most important. Later, you'll be able to discover how many benefits these 3 years have brought you. Yao Lao's smile slowly disappeared, and he took on a more serious expression. Xiao Yan was stunned. He was never told that having one's strength taken away would bring benefits. Then when are you going to teach me alchemy? Xiao Yan steered his thoughts onto the most important thing. To become an alchemist, you need to have Du Qi of the fire attribute. So before you become an alchemist, you have to at least become a Dao Jie and learn a fire attribute, Dao Qi method. Xiao Yan held out his hand and laughingly asked, fire attribute Dao Qi method? Hey, teacher, since I'm your student, you should give me a Tian-level fire attribute Dao Qi method, right? Hearing that, Yan Lao indignantly scolded Xiao Yan. Really? Do you think that Tian-stage Dao Qi methods are like potatoes in the ground? How could you say something like that? Geezer, since I've already become your student, you can't possibly let me go into my clan to find Du Qi methods, right? Our clan's top fire attribute Du Qi method is only a high Huang level. That's way too shabby for an alchemist. Xiao Yan's face showed how depressed he was. Brat, I'm your teacher, not a geezer. Hearing Xiao Yan's disrespectful words, Yao Lao rolled his eyes when he realized that Xiao Yan didn't care about being respectful to his elders. Since you're my student, I wouldn't let you practice some shabby methods. Tian-stage methods? I don't have them, but I have a method that's a lot stronger than a normal Tian-stage method. Do you want to learn it? Yao Lao's turbid old eyes suddenly became conspiratorial. Stronger than a Tian-stage Du Qi method? His heart beats rapidly. Zhao Yan swallowed some saliva, and in his pitch-black eyes, a hint of anticipation could be found. Then what level Du Qi method is it? Low Huang level. Yao Lao's light laughter made Xiao Yan's face stiffen. Geezer, you were playing me? A furious voice sounded on the peak of the mountain. Looking at the twisted face of the young man, Yao Lao started laughing. To be able to make the calm Xiao Yan that mad, he had a feeling of accomplishment. What's strange about that Du Qi method? Watching Yao Lao's bantering face, Xiao Yan suddenly calmed down. It can evolve. Xiao Yan's eyes widened, and without blinking, Xiao Yan stared at Yao Lao's face, trying to find a hint that Yao Lao was lying. but after a few seconds, he shook his head. No way! I've never heard of any Du Qi method that can evolve. What do you know? Du Qi mainland is huge and strange people and things happen all the time. In your limited mind, you haven't even gone outside of GM Empire. There are tons of impossible things that are actually possible. Xiaoyan paused before saying, then have you ever heard about Du Qi methods that can evolve? Yao Lao's smile stiffened. Because there aren't any other like it, this Du Qi method is unique. It can evolve? Looking at Yao Lao's serious face, Xiaoyan couldn't help but ask again. It can evolve. Yao Lao seriously nodded. Have you tried it? Oh, no. Have other people tried it? Oh, no. On Xiaoyan's forehead, a vein could be seen. With his hands curled tightly, Xiaoyan tried to resist his impulse to go over and punch the elder. If no one else has ever tried it, then how do you know that it can evolve? It's explained like that on the Du Qi method. There really are such Du Qi methods? His brows furrowed. Xiaoyan hesitated before saying, can you let me see it? Hey. Looking at the curious Xiaoyan, Yao Lao's mouth opened, but what came out wasn't what Xiaoyan was expecting. Never mind. There's no use if you see it now, so why don't you become a dude first before I pass it on to you? Xiaoyan's outstretched hand paused, and after the edge of his mouth twitched for a while, he spat out 3 words. You're ruthless. Happily laughing, Yao Lao ignored the anger-filled pupils of Xiaoyan and said, our current mission is to get your Du Qi up to 7 Duan within 1 year. Xiaoyan pushed down his curiosity and anger for the Du Qi method and asked with clenched teeth, how are you going to do that? Yao Lao with a serious face said, when one begins to train their Du Qi, their main focus is to build muscle and strengthen internal Qi path so that they have a foundation for when they materialize their Du Qi within their body. Because people at your age have weak internal Qi paths and can be molded, you need to take the training process step by step, and you can't use outside force to boost your training speed. Or else in the future, when your Du Qi becomes stronger, your internal Qi paths won't be able to withstand the force of Du Qi pushing through the paths, and your Qi paths would burst, which would be when you would die. Xiaoyan knew this as well as Yao Lao because in the 3 years that he was crippled, his father was very worried, and quite a few times, he tried to forcibly push Du Qi into Xiaoyan's body, but every time, at the last second, he would stop, so Xiaoyan knew the stakes involved. Yao Lao glanced at the calm Xiaoyan and satisfiedly nodded his head. But that only applies to others. You're different. Your internal foundation was already solid and reliable 3 years ago, and since then, because of your firm personality, you never stopped training your Qi. Therefore, your foundation right now, I can say that it is great. So you want to use outside forces to train my Qi, like pills? Pretty much. But with the toughness of your Qi paths right now, you won't be able to take the force of any of the pills going through your Qi paths. Even the rudimentary gathering Qi powder you wouldn't be able to use. The rudimentary gathering Qi powder, Xiaoyan wanted to roll his eyes again. In GM Empire, a gathering Qi powder would fetch sky-high prices, but from his teacher, these gathering Qi powder became the most rudimentary things. The difference between the two left Xiaoyan stunned. Then your plan? Taking a deep breath, Xiaoyan recovered and furrowed his brows again. Hey, since pills are too fierce and can hurt your Qi paths, we need to use a milder method. Yao Lao smiles and says, tomorrow prepare for me 3 complete stalks of purple-leaf bluegrass, where the older they are, the better. Also, I need 2 stalks of bone-washing flower. The age of it doesn't matter. Oh, right, I'll also need a level 1 wood-attributed monster core. These are all low-grade materials, so you should be able to get them. Someone's coming, I'll go back into the ring. Also, don't let anyone else know of my existence, including your closest family. After saying that, Yao Lao ignored the stunned Xiaoyan and jumped into the black ring. The ring shakes a bit and flies onto Xiaoyan's finger. 3 stalks of purple-leaf bluegrass, 2 stalks of bone-washing flower, a wood attribute monster core? Geezer, are you sure that's right? Do you think that I'm some royal prince? These things, added all together, costs over 1,000 gold coin. After a few years of saving money to the point where I would skip meals and never spend on luxury items, I only have 400 gold coins. That's only enough for one level 1 wood attribute monster core. Xiao Yan pointed at the motionless ring and cursed. That's your own problem. Heh heh, other people would lust after my nourishing fluids, but all I'm asking is for you to get the money for the material, and you're already crying about that. Yao Lao's taunting laughter sounded within Xiao Yan's heart. Damn it, the things that alchemists make can only be afforded by rich people. Xiao Yan helplessly laughed. His allowance each month was only 20 gold coins. This was by no means a small amount. It would be enough for a small normal family to feed themselves for an entire year. But the money that he had was barely enough to buy one of the items that Yao Lao required. This is the difference between alchemists and other people. Looks like I have to borrow it from someone. Sighing a depressed breath, Xiao Yan slowly regained his composure, and his small face recovered to his normal calm face. Turning his head towards the path up the mountain, he could make out a purple figure climbing the mountain like a spirit. Tiptoeing on the rocks, Xiao Shun was like a beautiful purple butterfly with hypnotizing curves as she gracefully scaled the mountain. As she looks upward, her gaze focuses toward the youth standing next to the cliff. Looking at the youth, Xiao Shun felt surprised. Even though it had only been a couple of hours, she noticed that compared to before, Xiao Yan has obtained something. When their eyes meet, she finally realized what Xiao Yan has regained, his own confidence. After 3 years, Xiao Yan's brilliance has returned at last. Indulging in the transparent lingering on Xiao Yan's lips, 2 dimples appear Xiao Shun's pretty face. Looks like Xiao Yan didn't need Xunair to come and comfort him. People grow after experiencing hardships, don't they? Xiao Yan shrugs his shoulders. She will definitely regret it. Xunair curls her lips and says the words as if she were a judge, having the final say on a court case. Xiao Yan lightly smiles, pats his clothes, and walks towards her. When he gets near her, looking at Xunair, who's about the same height, he glances at the young, but nevertheless pretty face. Suddenly, Xiao Yan feels dizzy, remembering the girl who would be drooling all the time and following Xiao Yan everywhere. She's so pretty now. Lightly smiling, Xiao Yan's gaze softens, and he rudely pinches Xiao Shun's face underneath her shocked look. Xunair's grown up, but you turned out fine, not forgetting how Xiao Yan Gige would be covered with bruises trying to pick fruit from the trees. Stunned at Xiao Yan's intimate actions, Xunair stiffens for a whole second before her pitch black, free of impurities, eyes smiles. When she was still small, Xiao Yan loved to pinch her cheeks, but ever since the event 3 years ago, he set up an invisible wall next to his heart and pushed everyone out. No matter how hard she tried, she would always be disappointed by the cold and impassive attitude of his. He's back, but it seems like he still considers me to be immature. He's such a log. Xunair complains in her heart after an instant. Xunair criticizes herself for being too greedy. Xunair, for these past 3 years, please don't blame Xiao Yan Gege for being like that. I was living day by day, but thankfully you were always by my side. Xiao Yan awkwardly nods his head and apologizes. Xunair sweetly smiles. The grievances she had endured for the past 3 years disappeared with the awkward apology. Oh, right. Xunair, how much money do you have? Letting go of Xunair's face, Xiao Yan does a hollow laugh and asks. In his clan, with the exception of his father, Xunair was the only person that was in a good relationship with him. He had just shamed his father this morning, so he could not bear to face his father to ask for money, which is why he asked Xunair. Money? Blinking her crystal clear eyes, Xunair is taken by surprise. Xiao Yan Gege needs money? Yes, I want to buy some items, though I'm a bit short. Xiao Yan felt embarrassed. This was the first time he borrowed money from a girl. Looking at the usual frigid Xiao Yan, now in distress, Xiao Xunair looks at a completely different person, covering her mouth and smiling cutely. I have more than 1,000 gold coins, is that enough? If not... While speaking, Xunair's fingers behind her swiftly flick, and a purple gold card suddenly appears between her fingers. On the card are 5 different waves of color. 5-wave purple cold card in Dochi mainland. You have to be at least a Daoling, if Daozhou is first, Daoling is fourth, to have the honor of using this type of gold card that represents their rank. Of course, some special powers also have the privilege of getting the card. That's enough, that's enough. Happily nodding his head, Xiaoyan forcefully tried to stop himself from pinching Shun'er's cute face. Don't worry, I'll pay you back later, Xiaoyan promises while patting his chest. You don't need to pay me back. Shun'er pouts and quickly hides her purple gold card. Let's go. It's almost night now. Tomorrow I'll bring you to Wutang City for a walk. Xiaoyan waved towards the girl and cheerfully descended the mountain. Standing still, Shun'er delightfully looked at the youth who had regained his boldness from 3 years ago. Smiling softly, she murmured, Nalan Yanran, should I despise you or be grateful to you? Early morning, the sun shone warmly through the window onto the body of the cross-legged youth in meditation. Whew! After meditating nearly all night, Xiaoyan inhaled deeply. A translucent white airflow that was visible to the naked eyes went through his mouth and nose and into his body, nursing his body and bones. White light shined from his eyes as he suddenly opened his eyes. Xiaoyan stretched himself and passionately says, This is exactly this feeling. After 3 years, the feeling of qi has returned. He slowly gets out of his bed, exercises himself a bit, before starting changing. From outside the room, Shun'er's voice softly carries inside. Xiaoyan Gege, still sleeping? She arrived here so early. Shaking his head, Xiaoyan turned around and then searched his drawers. Finally, with reluctance, he pulled out a small box and carefully opened it. He narrowed his eyes from the glint of silver inside that box. And this is my entire savings. Holding his money box, Xiaoyan smiled bitterly while shaking his head. Xiaoyan gently smiled as he walked out of his room and saw the dazzling girl in front of his door. Shun'er had changed into a pale green outfit that made her look even more naturally beautiful. She also had a pair of tight pants that stretched across her slender thighs and long legs, emphasizing her curves. With long legs, Shun'er can be compared to young girls on Earth, full of youthful vitality and seductivity, of course. She has her special elegance, which Xiaoyan had never seen on any other girl but her. Here, it's what you'll need. Looking at Xiaoyan exiting his room, Shun'er smiled and handed him a black card. This is a common card. The maximum it can contain is only 5,000 gold coins. Receiving the black card, Xiaoyan teases. Little girl, why are you wearing such an attractive outfit? Could it be you're having a date with somebody else? Yeah, this is the first time in 3 years that Xiaoyan Gege has invited me out. Shun'er is very flattered, so of course I have to dress up a little. Xiaoyan's intimate tease made Shun'er's eyes bend into a shallow crescent shape while smiling coquettishly. Reluctantly shaking his head, Xiaoyan smiles back happily. They chat while walking together toward the city. At about halfway, they were greeted by some clansmen looking at their affectionate conversation with a strange face. Shun'er, be it beauty or talent, is the brightest pearl of the young generation in the clan. She usually is friendly to everybody, but under her light smile is indifference. Greetings with her are easy, but to start a long conversation would be very difficult. Ignoring the looks of the other clansmen, Xianyan quickly leads Shun'er out of the clan before slowing down and leisurely peeking at the stall on the side of the street. Wutang City lives up to its name of being one of the larger cities in Jiama Empire by the sheer number of people living in it. Even though the sun was beating down, on the streets were thousands, if not tens of thousands of people. There would even be 1 or 2 bizarre races. Maybe it was because of Xiaoyan beside her, but Shun'er became a lot more active after she exited the clan. She tugged the reluctant Xiaoyan into a variety of stalls. Her tender laughter made the scorching street a little cooler. When Shun'er finally got tired, Xiaoyan finally brought her to the nearby pharmacy. After spending about 900 gold coins, he bought 3 stalks of 20-year purple-leaf bluegrass, along with 2 stalks of 5-year bone-washing grass. These were both low-end materials and would be able to be bought at a regular pharmacy. For higher-end materials, Xiaoyan would have had to find them himself or buy them at an auction, or if he was lucky, in a high-end pharmacy. Looking at the rapidly decreasing funds, Xiaoyan bitterly smiled. He realized how important money was in Doshi mainland. Anyways, he got all of the herbs. All that was left was the level 1 wood attributed monster core. Monster cores in the Doshi mainland, they are also known as magic crystals. The monster core is the energy nuclei within a magic monster. The monster core is filled with extremely violent world energy. When facing this kind of violent world energy, even a Dao Wang wouldn't risk absorbing a monster core. Even though monster cores cannot be absorbed directly, it is a core ingredient in alchemy. A monster core that goes through an alchemist's refining can be infused with some herbs to become desirable and expensive pills that can increase one's strength. Furthermore, monster cores can be placed on weapons. The weapon that has been fused with a monster core does not only have increased destructive power, it can also have special Du Qi effects and becomes a highly sought-after commodity in the Du Qi mainland. Besides weapons, monster cores can also be added to armors and defensive equipment. The defensive equipment that have monster cores have an extreme defense and give their users an extra safety net when they're in danger. With that many uses, monster cores are naturally the most sought-after items within the Du Qi mainland. Not only Duzhe, but even respectable alchemists search in person for high-level monster cores in order to create higher quality level pills. Under such demand, the supply for monster cores on the mainland is always unable to meet the demand from the buyers. Thus, whenever a high-level core appears in any auction or other setting, it was bought immediately at a high price. Because of the high value of monster cores, many mercenary groups specialize in killing magic monsters for a living. But getting a monster core is not a simple task. First, magic monsters are not only extremely strong, but also very cunning. Because of their devious nature and special attacking methods, magical beasts can be much stronger than humans of the same rank. Hence, without outstanding power of your own, trying to kill a magical beast on your own is impossible and may possibly lose your life without getting a magical core. Even if you do kill a magic beast, not all magical beasts possess a magic core. The probability of a magical beast having a core is almost random, so a mercenary group could have half of their force killed trying to kill a magic monster and yet not find a core. These kinds of incidents happen all the time in Du Qi mainland. Thus, the price of monster cores in Du Qi mainland are all very expensive. Bringing Shun'er through twisting alleys, Xiaoyan finally arrives at a market that's slightly south in the city. In Wutang City, there are a few medium-sized markets, and all of them are controlled by one of the three clans. The market Xiaoyan is going in is under Xiao Clan's control. Even though it's under Xiao Clan's control, Xiao Clan is actually only maintaining order and safety in the market. And for compensation, be it mercenaries or merchants who set up stalls, they have to pay taxes to the clan. This is the rule of Du Qi mainland for a long time, and rarely anybody would try to go against it. At the front entrance of the market, there were two guards from Xiao Clan. They undoubtedly knew Xiaoyan and Shun'er. Judging from when the guards saw them coming, the guards paused and immediately bowed. Slightly nodding his head, Xiaoyan walked inside, and looking at the never-ending stream of people, he couldn't help himself from licking his lips. No wonder the clan keeps the market under strict control. With this many people visiting the market, the profits for the clan can't be low. Third young master, Miss Shun'er, would you like to buy something in the market? Right when the two were dizzy looking at the sheer number of people, a respectful voice sounded behind them. Hearing the sound, Xiaoyan turned his head. Behind him were 7 to 8 guys that were wearing the Xiao Clan's uniform. The speaker appeared to be a 30-years-old mature man, wearing a badge with 6 gold stars. He is obviously a 6-star Duzhou. Noticing the doubt in Xiaoyan's eyes, the man honestly smiled and said, "Third young master, I'm called Pei Yan. The clan leader appointed me to be the leader of the guards for maintaining safety in the market. Last year during young master's birthday, Pei Yan, came." "Oh, it's Uncle Pei Yan." Xiaoyan blinked, and even though he does not have any impression of Pei Yan, his introduction made Xiaoyan smile. Since the man was personally appointed by his father, he would naturally be his subordinate. There would be no issues with loyalty. Even though the Xiao clan wasn't some big and influential force, the clan was divided into different factions. If the man standing in front of him was under the control of the elders, he would have never been so kind and would have just said some customary greetings. I was bored in the clan, so I decided to come out and look around. Uncle Pei Yan, you should go and do your work. If I have any questions, I'll be sure to ask you. Xiaoyan's young voice didn't have any hints of arrogance that a normal young master might have. Instead, his voice was soft and respectful. Anyone who heard it would feel a slight sense of pride and joy. With another uncle, the smile on Pei Yan's face widened and became more sincere. Nodding his head, he said, "Then enjoy looking around, third young master. Our people are all over the market, so if you need anything, then just call out for us." Respectfully nodding his head, Xiaoyan pulls Shun'er and plunged into the horde of people, disappearing from Pei En's sight. "Pali, bring 2 men and follow third young master. Also, warn the thieves in the market that if any of them have any ideas on third young master or Jun, or then they don't need to be in this market anymore." Looking at the disappearing young boy and girl, Pei En turned around and his honest face was replaced by a cunning and capable face. "Yes, Captain," one of the men lowly answered, and with a wave of his hand, him and 2 other men also go into the multitudes of people. "Ha ha! Third young master is still so gentle, it allows people to be relaxed around him." Looking at the 3 men mixing in with the crowd, Pei En smiles, but in an instant, the smile turns into a frown and he sighed. "Third young master is such a nice person, it's regretful, ha." Regretfully shaking his head, Pei En leads his remaining underlings and goes to patrol the streets. Lazily following Xiaoyan, Shun'er accidentally glanced behind her and smiled. "Xiaoyan gay, Pei En's quite nice." Xiaoyan answered with a yup and scans towards a nearby stall. His sole perception was far greater than normal people, so he could detect the guards following him. Looking back forward, Xiaoyan slows down and walks side by side with Shun'er. Tilting his head, he jokes, "9. Duanqi, and already able to detect 3 hiding guards. Shun'er, pretty good." Shun'er copies Xiaoyan and cutely shrugged her shoulders, bringing out her trump card. "Smile. Stay silent." Looking at the silent Shun'er, a smile began to form on his lips. Lightly patting her head, he whispers, "Even though I don't know who you are or where you're from, I do know that you are my sister, and no matter what happens in the future, I will always protect you." Lightly smiling, Xiaoyan speeds up and breaks out of his line from Shun'er. Her feet stopping, Shun'er stared with her beautiful eyes at the back of the young man that just talked with her. After pausing for a while, a smile begins to creep onto her delicate face. Within the crowd, her figure was swaying back and forth, like a lotus, elegant and pretty. "Sister, Shun'er is a very greedy girl, though." Tilting her head, Shun'er mutters and then quickly catches up to the young man in front of her. Following Xiaoyan while he examines the stalls by the side, Shun'er and Xiaoyan slowly move into the more populated and expensive inner parts of the market. The people that come here to buy and sell usually have decent money or physical power. While Xiaoyan was engrossed in trying to find a monster core, Xiaoxun, who was bored, walked up to a clean stall and with her pale white hand picks up a light green bracelet. The bracelet wasn't crafted with anything special, but it had a hint of ice silver, which made it feel cold to the touch, perfect for hot summer days. In addition, even though the material was quite plain, the craftsmanship wasn't bad. Right when Shun'er decided to buy the bracelet, she remembered that she had loaned all of her money to Xiaoyan. Slightly turning around and seeing the busy young man, she could only helplessly shake her head and smile at the old stall owner. Putting down the bracelet, she lazily started moving forward. Her calm manner wouldn't let her ask anyone to buy anything for her, even if it was Xiaoyan. After walking forward for a bit, right when the bored Shun'er decided to go back to Xiaoyan, a clear laughter rings from ahead. "Huh, isn't this Ms. Shun'er? Hey, I wouldn't have thought to find you here. It must be fate." Her thin brow lightly furrowing, Shun'er tried to find the source of the voice but only saw a group of people. The group was following behind a luxuriously dressed young man. The young man was around 20 years old and quite handsome. His face was slightly pale, but his eyes were filled with heat and were staring at the young girl standing in front of him. Within his gaze was also an unrestrained hint of lust. Looking at the delighted, handsome youth, Shun'er's slim eyebrows wrinkled. Not paying attention to his call, she turned away. "Miss Shun'er!" Looking at Shun'er from the side, the handsome but pale young man became immediately anxious and quickly crossed to block her from the front. Blocked by the youth, Shun'er stopped her steps. Her pair of long and beautiful eyes were lazily narrowed, staring at him. Yet she did not utter a single word. Miss Shun'er stared at by pupils that were like water drops. And despite the fact that he was used to flirting with beauties, his breathing became somewhat hurried. His clever tongue had lost all of its use for the moment. Jia Liarao, young master, if there isn't anything urgent, please get out the way. I still have to do something. Looking at this somewhat flushed youth, Shun finally spoke. Her soft and young voice made the young man's pale face flush with a sick red. Hey, Miss Shun, have you come to the market to buy something? I'm quite free right now, so why don't we look around the market together? Taking a deep breath within his mind, Jia Liao's smile was open and gentle. This smile, along with his status and handsomeness, had successfully landed him quite a few girls. Jia Liao, young master, I already said that I have something to do. Can you move aside? Shun'er's small mouth curves upward, and her voice was smooth without any hint of irritation. Being rejected by Shun'er, the edges of Jia Liao's mouth twitched, but he kept his smile and pulled out a bracelet from his pockets. The bracelet was a light blue gold color and was made from blue gold. From the bracelet hanged a smooth green ball-like monster core. A soft green was emitted from the monster core and scattered its light on the bracelet, giving it a special hue. Looks like this intricate bracelet costs a lot. Since Miss Zhun has something to do, then I, Jia Liao, won't block you anymore. Jia Liao tightly clutched the bracelet and smiles. This was a bracelet that I just bought in the market. Even though it's not too expensive, it has a level 1 wood attribute monster core, which greatly helps in the recovery of Duqi. Since Miss Shun hasn't become a Daoji yet, this bracelet is perfect for you. This is just a small gift of mine, so please don't say no. After all, I would lose face in front of my underlings. At the end, Jia Liao purposefully lowered his voice, and the underlings around him, as if it was a play, grinned on cue. Looking at Jia Liao's actions, Jun'er's brow lifted. She didn't know how to deal with such a person. Right when she was about to refuse, her sight fell onto the green monster core on the bracelet and remembered how Xiao Yan was busily trying to find a wood attribute monster core. Her long eyelashes lightly blinked and her impassive face relaxed a bit. Looking at Shun'er's relaxed face, Jia Liao's heart flutters happily and quickly pushes the wood attribute bracelet forward. Miss Zhun, there's no need to be courteous. Jia Lai clan and Xiao clan are both in the top 3 clans of Wutang City, so exchanging little gifts is common. I'll take the bracelet and remove the monster core and give to Xiaoyan Gigi. As for the bracelet, when he's not paying attention, I'll throw it away. With this mischievous thought, Shun'er didn't hesitate anymore and stretches her hand out, about to take the bracelet. Suddenly, a hand grabs her hand and stops her from taking the bracelet. Right when her hand was grabbed, Shun'er pauses in shock before having the Do Qi in her body flowing in order to protect herself. But right when her hand was about to go free from the grasp, a young male made her obediently stop struggling. Looking behind her, Shun'er saw Xiaoyan. When her sight moved a bit higher, she saw a harsh young face. Don't you know what he's like? Scowling at Shun'er, Xiaoyan criticized himself in his mind. Then he looks up and says, Jia Liao, young master, your thought is graciously accepted by Shun'er, but as for the gift, you should take it back. Looking at the destroyed atmosphere, a hint of anger flashed within Jia Liao's eyes. But in front of Shun'er, he tried to keep his gentlemanly air and waxily smiles. Xiaoyan, young master, I saw that Miss Shun'er didn't have any jewelry, so I wanted to help her a bit. Do you not want to let her have a few small trinkets to accentuate her beauty? Helplessly sighing, Xiaoyan glances at the wood attribute bracelet in Jia Liao's hand and took out another green bracelet, and with some frustration asks, do you really like bracelets? Here you go. Don't take other people's stuff for no reason. I already told you that there is no such thing as a free lunch. The ones who offer free stuff always have a hidden motive. With your innocent look, you may have been sold by someone and still wouldn't know what had happened. Hearing Xiaoyan's words that were obviously directed at him, Jia Liao's face becomes cold. But when he saw the bracelet on Xiaoyan's hand, he couldn't help but laugh. The bracelet in Xiaoyan's hands from a material standpoint couldn't have costed more than 5 gold coins, while his wood attribute bracelet, which had an authentic monster core, cost an entire 1,000 plus gold coins. The two bracelets, no matter how you look at it, either price or actual usefulness, had a huge difference, and Xiaoyan's bracelet couldn't even compare to the wood attribute bracelet. So when Jia Liao saw Xiaoyan giving such a poor bracelet to the beautiful Shun'er, he couldn't help but criticize Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan, I know that you don't have a high position in your clan, but why would you give such pitiful thing to Shun'er? Ignoring Jia Liao's taunt, Xiaoyan looked at the young girl who was staring at the bracelet in his hand and hurriedly asked, "Do you want it or not? If you don't, then I'll just throw it away. It was only 2-3 gold coins." Ha! Hearing Xiaoyan's words, not only did Jia Liao start laughing, his underlings also started to laugh at Xiaoyan with a ridiculing tone. But the ridiculing laugh didn't continue for long before being cut off, as if they had just had their necks cut off. On everyone was a hilariously stunned face. Jun who had been stunned, responded quickly to Xiaoyan's words. Her two hands almost instinctively reached out and snatched the bracelet in Xiaoyan's hand. After getting the bracelet, Jun realized what she had done. Perhaps she had acted a bit too impatient. A light red blush appeared on her delicate face, but Jun wasn't like other people. And after a slight period of embarrassment, she graciously hooked the bracelet onto her white wrist. Raising her head and giving a coy smile, she said, "Thank you, Xiaoyan Gege." With an ugly face, Jia Liao stared at Shuner, who was quite intimate with Xiaoyan. On his face was apparent jealousy, and he said, "I didn't realize that Miss Shuner's preferences were so unique. I guess I've been mistaken." Xiaoyan glances at Jia Liao in front of him, and his gaze landed on the gold star at his chest. He strangely thought, "When I saw him last year, he was only 9 Duan Qi, right? Who would have thought that he would be successful in compressing his Du Qi cyclone? But to become a Daodi at the age of 21, his talent is barely decent." Seeing that Jia Liao had no intention of leaving, Xiaoyan pursed his lips. His wasn't affected by the power and status behind Jia Liao. And since the Xiao clan and Jia Lai clan didn't have good relations in the first place, there was no need for him to act humble. Stroking his nose, Xiaoyan lightly said, "Jia Liao, young master, your womanizer habits are known by the entire Wutang city. Shuner is still young and doesn't have time to play with your flirting games, so hopefully you can go after other girls in the future. Stay away from him." After speaking to Jia Liao, Xiaoyan ignored the green-faced Jia Liao and used his age as an advantage to arrogantly speak to Shuner. "Okay." Shuner's agile eyes blinked and nodded without any hesitation. To her, Jia Liao was just a stranger that she saw a couple of times, while Xiaoyan, for her, was irreplaceable. Since Xiaoyan told her to stay away from Jia Liao, she'll just stay away from him. The choice wasn't a hard one for Shuner. Seeing Shuner nod at Xiaoyan's words, Jia Liao's mouth started twitching. He curled his fists and stared coldly at the calm and impassive young man before him. Jia Liao's underlings, seeing that their young master was quite angry, quickly walked forward and surrounded both Xiaoyan and Xiaoshun, their gazes revealing their bad intentions. Even though it was deep within the market, there were still quite a few people around, and they turned their questioning gazes toward the surrounded group. Xiaoyan and Jia Liao had quite a reputation in Wutang City. Xiaoyan for his fall from genius to cripple, and Jia Liao for his less than honorable encounters with other women. Even though they were infamous, they were still well known within the city. Looking Jia Liao's group's movements, Xiaoyan's brow jumped, and on his young face, a hint of confidence creeped. Lightly turning his head, he whistled towards a spot within the market. Seeing Xiaoyan's actions, everyone turned their head to the direction in which Xiaoyan whistled and saw the market's guards furiously coming over under the lead of Pei En. With his fellow guards, Pei En rushed towards Xiaoyan, and quickly, the market's guards surrounded Jia Liao's underlings, who were surrounding Xiaoyan and Xiaoshun. "Third young master, anything wrong?" Walking up to Xiaoyan, Pei En swept his glance over Jia Liao and then respectfully asked Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan lightly smiles and turned to face the green-faced Jia Liao. He nonchalantly said, "Jia Liao, young master, this market is controlled by Xiao clan. Are you sure you want to fight here?" Jia Liao's eyes revealed his fear for Pei En, but he immediately sneered at Xiaoyan. "Do you only know to rely on your clan? If you are a man, what you want to say is, if I am a man, then I would fight you one-on-one, right?" Xiaoyan waved his hand and cut Jia Liao off. Jia Liao sneered again, and with a hint of challenge, he said, "Yup, are you afraid?" Looking at the arrogant face of Jia Liao, Xiaoyan helplessly sighed and puts his hand up to feel his forehead. Moments later, he raised his head and shrugs his shoulder, and with innocence and naivety, he asked, "Jia Liao, young master, I would like to ask, how old are you?" The edge of Jia Liao's mouth twitched and he doesn't respond. "Big guy, you're already 21. How old am I?" 15. You're actually asking a kid that hasn't performed his coming-of-age ritual to fight you? Don't you feel that your request is over the top? Don't you feel embarrassed? Xiao Yan's innocent appearance was so realistic that Shun Er beside him couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. Haha. Hearing the young man's words, the mercenary and merchant stall owners also let out laughs. Xiao Yan was right. At his current age, Xiao Yan could only be considered a kid, but Jia Liao would be considered an adult. A challenge of this kind made everyone look down upon Jia Liao. The laughter of the crowd was like a bucket of cold water and helped Jia Liao regain his calm. From Xiao Yan's maturity and calmness to his impassive attitude, it was extremely easy for people to forget how old he really was. Therefore, after Xiao Yan said his age, Jia Liao finally remembered that the young man standing in front of him was only 15. Gnashing his teeth, Jia Liao looked at the leering guards behind Xiao Yan and realized that he didn't have any chance of retaliation today. He could only shake his head and coldly say, "One more year and you'll be undergoing the coming-of-age ritual, right?" I think that someone as crippled as you, once you finish the coming-of-age ritual, will only be sent to some remote and poor village. At that time, you won't even have the power to enter Wutang City. Pretty pitiful. Xiao Yan lightly smiles and nonchalantly shrugs his shoulders. Jia Liao's eyelids flickered. He didn't know why, but whenever he saw the calm face of the young man in front of him, a mysterious rage boiled within him. You're only a cripple and trying to act like you know everything. Forcefully suppressing his anger, Jia Liao let out a cold and with a wave of his hand, commands his underlings to exit the crowd. Oh, right. His steps stopping, Jia Liao seemed to have remembered something, and turning back, he said, "Xiao Yan, young master, I heard that your Xiao clan had their marriage with the Nalan clan revoked. Actually, that isn't unexpected. With your Qi talent, you just can't match the Miss Nalan." Ha ha ha. After saying that, Jia Liao left laughing. Xiao Yan's gaze coldly followed the exit of Jia Liao. Tightly holding Shun Er, who was about to rush out, he quietly said, "He's just a mad dog. If he bites you, why should you bite back?" "But he went too far. We can't just let him off like this?" Her eyebrows furrowing, Shun Er indignantly replied, "There will always be an opportunity." Xiao Yan smirked, and the coldness coming from his voice made Pei Yan shuddered. A lion's bite might not be that scary, but a lion that knows patience is another story, a scary one. "Uncle Pei Yan, sorry for troubling you." Xiao Yan turned back and smiled gently toward Pei Yan's group. The previously intense atmosphere all of a sudden changed into a lighthearted mood. Impressed by the control over emotions that Xiao Yan exercised, Pei Yan's smile was reinforced by a sense of respect. Even with Xiao Yan's lack of talent, Xiao Yan's future accomplishments probably wouldn't be too shabby with his mental prowess. Ha ha ha. Third young master's joking. This is Xiao clan's territory. We wouldn't allow Jia Li clan to do as they please here. Pei Yan smiled, and seeing that Xiao Yan started to look around, he quickly took his leave along with his men. Looking at the exiting Pei Yan and his group, Xiao Yan turned around and ruffled Shun Er's hair and said slightly forcefully, "A level 1 monster core made you forget your morals? You know as well as I do what kind of person Jia Liao is. The moment you take his stuff, he would definitely ask for favors." Straightening her hair, Shun Er flipped her hands upwards. "He wanted to give it me. It was free." Xiao Yan rolled his eyes and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "It isn't like that's something precious. Did you really need to act like that? Don't forget, you're the young genius in Xiao clan." Shun Er wrinkles her nose and raised the bracelet on her wrist. She taunted, "So Xiao Yan Gege has also been noticing Shun Er." Xiao Yan stayed silent, and pulling on Shun Er's hand, they walked towards some stalls deeper in the market. After walking past quite a few stalls, Xiao Yan's feet finally stopped. He bent down and stared at a green orb that still had a trace of blood on the stall and said, "I've finally found it." Moving his hand across the stall, Xiao Yan's was about to grab the monster core when his hand stiffened. A strange foreboding struck his mind. Licking his lips, Xiao Yan continued to pick up the monster core, but his gaze, as if by accident, swept across the stall. Moments later, his gaze landed on a piece of black metal that was displayed beside the monster core. The black metal piece seemed extremely old with many specks of rust and even a couple spots of dirt. It looked as if it had just been excavated. "Hey, Yan brat, buy the black metal piece. It's something good." Right when Xiaoyan was confused about why he felt such a strong feeling towards the seemingly worthless metal, Yao Lao's voice sounded in his mind. Listening to the voice inside his head, Xiaoyan blinked and secretly nodded. Instead of immediately grabbing the black metal piece, Xiaoyan gently picked up the green monster core that was still dripping blood, and looking at the shabby-looking mercenary standing behind the stall, he asked cheerfully, "Which magic monster did this monster core comes from?" "Ha ha ha, the eyes of young master are really good. This is a monster core from a first-level magic monster named Swallowwood Fox. It is a high-quality core. Our sharp-teeth mercenary group waited 3 days and ambushed 5 Swallowwood Foxes before finally obtaining this magic core." Noticing Xiaoyan's luxurious outfit, the mercenary rapidly advertised his wares. "If this object is to young master's liking, I think 500 gold coins would be a good price." "Ha ha ha. While obtaining this core, we had several brothers who got injured quite heavily." Xiaoyan slowly wiped the remaining blood off of the magic core, noticing they haven't completely clotted yet. He nodded slightly and glanced towards the 2 golden stars on the chest of the mercenary and commented, "Too expensive. Normally, a level 1 magic core's price would only be from 400 to 450 gold coins. Furthermore, even if the Swallowwood Fox is a magic beast, its attack power isn't too high. Are your underlings not Dao Jazz?" The corner of his mouth slightly jerking, the mercenary laughed dryly. He did not expect the youth standing in front of him to be so knowledgeable about the magic core market, and replied, 470 gold coins then. No more, no less. We have to live by this." "Huh." Sighing under the mercenary's anxious eyes, Xiaoyan bent down and randomly grabbed many things from the stall, conveniently including the mysterious metal piece in the mess. Then he said, 470 gold coins for all of these." Looking at the goods on Xiaoyan's hands, the mercenary let out a relieved sigh, since none of the items in Xiaoyan's hands were expensive. "All right." Cheerfully producing some gold coins, Xiaoyan did not waste another moment and left immediately. "Ha, brat, to be so cautious in a mundane task of buying things." The elder's taunting voice sounded in Xiaoyan's head as he turned to leave the shop. "Those bastards are all swindlers. They'll immediately increase the price if you show interest in their wares. I don't want to lose money for something stupid like that." After answering, Xiaoyan stopped paying attention to the elder inside his ring and leisurely exited the market and returned to the clan with Shun Er. After parting with Shun Er, Xiaoyan impatiently ran back to his room and carefully locked the door. Turning his head and seeing the elder, who left the ring since God knows when, Xiaoyan brought out the recently purchased herbs and magic core. He hastily asked, "All the required ingredients are here. What do we have to do?" The elder cheerfully laughed and his gaze scanned the ingredients on the table before suddenly asking, "Don't you want to know what that black metal piece is?" "Eh?" Xiaoyan paused before realizing that the elder was referring to his accidental purchase. He quickly took out the black metal piece and examined it from top to bottom. But after examining it, his brows furrowed and asked, "This, what does it do?" Yao Lao took the black metal piece and laughed. "There seems to be a do technique inside here. And the creator of this metal piece was probably also an alchemist, because only people that have a strong soul perception can feel the power within this metal piece." "Do technique?" Xiaoyan's eyes brightened and he hurriedly asked, "What level is it?" In the Do Qi mainland, the importance of Do techniques isn't lower than Qi methods. A strong Do technique would allow one to perform at a level far beyond what they are capable of. For example, a Do Zhe being able to fight a Do Shi even though his Do Qi is at a disadvantage. Dao techniques and Qi methods are both split into 4 levels of decreasing power: Tian, Dai, Xuan, and Huang. Normally, the Dao techniques that are easily accessible are at most high Huang level, and for higher Do techniques, one would have to go to a large clan or faction. Of course, Do Qi mainland is huge, and there are some special circumstances in which the top Dao techniques are lost and found by some lucky individual. The black metal piece that Xiaoyan has right now was probably the lost work of some ancient person. Yao Lao turned the metal plate around and smiled. "Vacuum hand. Low Xuan level." "Low Xuan level?" Xiaoyan's face was filled with happiness. He didn't expect that the trash he purchased would have a Xuan level Do technique. In his own clan, the Xiao clan, the highest Dao technique was only a middle Xuan level, and only the clan leader and some elders could learn it. "Vacuum hand. If trained to max, it can suck up boulders that are thousands of pounds. Against enemies, it can forcibly suck the blood out of their body. Forcibly suck blood from a body? His face full of surprise, Xiaoyan swallowed dryly and exclaimed, This is awesome. Once the blood leaves the body, they would die, right? Don't be happy yet. This only works if your level is higher than your opponent. If you meet someone stronger than you, they can use the chance to get close to you, and the unlucky would be you. Yao Lao carelessly threw the metal plate to the side. Looks like he doesn't think too highly of the Dou technique. Yao Lao was of high status and naturally had high standards, but for Xiaoyan, this was a high-level Dou technique. He immediately happily picked it up and laughed. Even with that, it's better than the Dou techniques in the clan. I'll learn this from now on. With your third Duan Qi, it would be amazing if you could pull up a tree branch with your vacuum hand and you want to suck the blood out of someone. Shaking his head, Yao Lao heavily criticized Xiaoyan. Rolling his eyes, Xiaoyan ignored Yao Lao and smiled while hugging the metal piece. Look at yourself. Having a low Xuan Dou technique makes you this happy. You're embarrassing me. Helplessly shaking his head, Yao Lao grabbed the monster core on the table and ordered Xiaoyan, Go get a huge bowl of water. Seeing that Yao Lao was about to start refining the pill, Xiaoyan hurriedly put away the black metal piece and cheerfully went to prepare. In the calm room, Yao Lao picked up the purple bluegrass with his left hand. Moments later, he lets out a deep breath, and a white flame appears in his hand. When the flame appeared, the temperature within the room rose exponentially. Without blinking, Xiaoyan stared at the white ball of flame. Although he didn't know the process of refining pills by alchemists, to materialize Dou Qi was an impossible task for even his father. With a calm face, the white fire in Yao Lao's hands expanded and swallowed the purple bluegrass. Within the flame, the purple bluegrass instantly became a green liquid ball. Yao Lao's right hand picked up another stalk of purple bluegrass and threw it into the white fire. After throwing all 3 stalks of purple bluegrass into the fire, the ball of green liquid became visibly bigger. The green liquid slowly shriveled within the fire. The high temperature relentlessly burned the impurities within the green liquid. With the flame, the green liquid became smaller and smaller in volume. After a few seconds, it was only about the size of a thumb. Afterwards, Yao Lao threw the 2 stalks of bone-washing flowers into the flame, and after they finished burning, the remaining liquid mixed with the original green liquid. After that was the refinement of the monster core. The third step took a whole hour, but Yao Lao still seemed full of energy and without any signs of fatigue. After an entire hour, the tough monster core had become a ball of green liquid. The violent energy within the monster core was softened by Yao Lao's magical formula. On his hand, the white flame slowly disappeared. Looking at the green ball floating on top of Yao Lao's hand, Xiao Yao rubbed his hands together. With his superior soul perception, he could clearly feel the bountiful energy within the energy ball. Teacher, do I just eat it? Xiaoyan blinked his eyes and asked impatiently, If you want to die, then eat it. With your Qi pass, you would become a true cripple within seconds. Giving Xiaoyan a white eye, Yao Lao flicks the ball, and it accurately flew into the bowl of water. Immediately, the bowl of clear water turned to a dark green shade. From now on, you should train in there. With your talent and barring any unforeseen circumstances, you should be able to get to 7 Duan Qi within a year. Yao Lao claps the dust off of his hands and lightly smiles towards Xiaoyan. With obvious happiness, Xiaoyan hurriedly nodded his head. Oh, I almost forgot. This medicine will only last for 2 months, which means you need to go buy the materials that you got today again every 2 months. Yao Lao revealed a sly smile. Xiaoyan's happiness disappeared from his face, and he nodded his head with reluctance. Damn it, only rich people can afford to use this stuff. The warm sun filtered through the window and lazily sprayed into the tidy room. Within the room, a young man with a bare upper body was sitting crossed within a wooden bowl. His 2 hands were knit together into a strange symbol. His 2 eyes were shut tightly while his breath was calm but powerful. In the wooden bowl beneath him, a mysterious green liquid was strangely sparkling. As he trained longer, the green liquid within the bowl began to slowly evaporate, giving off a light green stream of air. Stream slowly lifted upwards and squirmed into the young man's nose with his breathing. Once the stream was inside his body, the young man's face became shiny and smooth like white jade. As if he felt the ever-increasing Dou Qi within his body, the young man's face revealed a light smile. After confirming his success, the young man didn't stop there. He still had his eyes shut tight and kept his hands in the same position. He didn't even budge and maintained his maximally efficient position as he greedily sucked up the energy within the green liquid. The green liquid sticking to the young man's body was slowly absorbed by his skin, strengthening his bones and cleaning his chi paths. Under the young man's restless absorbance, more and more green streams came up from the bowl, and slowly they became so dense that they covered the young man's naked body in a layer of mist. Under the restless training, the bright sunshine that came in through the window slowly became weaker, and the room became a lot cooler. In the wooden bowl, the young man gathered in the final wisps of green air, and his eyelashes twitched before opening to reveal two pitch-black eyes. Within the pitch-black eyes, a white glow passed through, but this time, it had a hint of green. Slowly letting out a breath, the young man quickly stood up and let the cool water droplets flow off of his body. Taking a lazy stretch and feeling the abundant do-chi within his body, the young man muttered, "At this pace, I can probably get to the 5th duan-chi in 2 months." After preparing everything, Xiao Yan stayed in his room for an entire half-month. In the time he stayed in his room, besides eating and attending bodily functions, he had been training his chi nonstop. Even though training was extremely boring and tiring, it was nothing compared to the taunts and ridicules that Xiao Yan had endured for the past 3 years. The 3 full years of taunts had taught him how important strength was in this world. Even though the days passed tiresomely, the results of them were pleasing. The effects of Yao Lao's bowl of elixir was much stronger than what Xiao Yan, and even the creator of it, Yao Lao, had thought it would have. Yao Lao had predicted that it would take at least a month for Xiao Yan to get to 4 duan-chi, but Xiao Yan only took half that time. At this, even Yao Lao was surprised at the speed and efficiency in which Xiao Yan trained. Even though Xiao Yan had done this before, the speed at which he was going right now isn't a bit too incredible. The most important and toughest part about training Do-Chi is in the basics. The 10 duan-chi would take people 10 to even 20 years. Of course, once a person becomes a doji, then their training speed would increase exponentially. If one can only raise 1 duan-chi in a year before becoming a doji, then that same person could probably go up a couple of stars in a year once after becoming a doji. When the training speed was slanted towards later times, Xiao Yan's performance in half a month was surprising to say the least. Walking out of the bowl without hesitation, Xiao Yan looked back at the lighter green liquid in the bowl. The lighter color was definitely due to his training, and he helplessly shook his head while whispering, "Can this sustain for another month and a half?" Wiping off the remaining water droplets, Xiao Yan randomly put on a fresh suit of clothing and crawled onto his soft bed. After doing so, he reached behind his pillow to take out the pitch-black metal piece. The rust on the steel piece had already been wiped off by Xiao Yan to reveal a smooth and glowing surface. It was quite mysterious. For the past half-month, Xiao Yan had been intently studying this metal piece that contained a low Xuan level do technique whenever he took a break from training. In the half-month under the instructions of Yao Lao, Xiao Yan finally had a bit of understanding of the techniques involved, but because of the lack of Du Qi, he couldn't use it for anything useful, which made Xiao Yan a little disappointed. Placing the metal piece between his 2 palms, Xiao Yan closed his eyes and used his soul perception to observe the black metal plate. With the calming of Xiao Yao's breath, the room was once again peaceful. Another long silence passed before Xiao Yan opened his eyes again and raised his right hand. His right hand was curved into a claw, and his light Du Qi, under Xiao Yan's insistence, quickly went through the few qi and pressure points on his palm to become a pulling force. Pung! The ceramic vase that Xiao Yan pointed to made a few circles before falling down the tables, and with a clear crash, it shattered into countless pieces. Even though the Do technique is at the Zhuan level, my Dao Qi is too low, and I can barely use the technique. Seeing the destruction that he had caused, Xiao Yan whispered to himself, "Looking at the power it has right now, if I want to have enough force to vacuum a person towards me, then I need to be at 7 Duan Qi. Whatever, let's go to our clan hall to find some lower-level Dao techniques. This vacuum hand, it won't be of much use for some time. But since I can train my Do Qi again, I don't need to use my foolish method of training that I used before." Sighing again, Xiaoyan climbed off of his bed and glanced at the motionless black ring before leaving the house. Wincing his eyes and adjusting to the blazing sun, Xiaoyan carefully closed his door before lazily walking onto the stone path towards the clan's back rooms. To the sides of the stone path were emerald green willows. The bountiful green felt soothing and sharply contrasted with the scorching heat. Turning onto a different path, a young girl's laughter greeted him. Because of the disturbed calm, Xiaoyan furrowed his brows, and following the source of the laughter, he saw a couple of young girls coming towards him from another path. Crowded by other girls, a pretty girl was laughing. The charming face that she had completely overshadowed the other girls beside her. She was the girl that was second to Shuner in the Dao Qi testing Xiaomei. Glancing at the girl that had once stuck to his side, calling countless biaogis, a flash of unrestrained mocking went across Xiaoyan's face. Lightly shaking his head, Xiao Yao retrieved his sight. TL, Biao Go is brother not in one's direct family. This is a formal saying compared to Ji Yige, which is more of an familiar saying. When Xiaomei reached the road Xiaoyan was on, Xiaomei's charming laughter died out as she had seen Xiaoyin. The sun scattered its light and made the impassive young man with his hands behind his head indescribably attractive. A pair of pretty large eyes stared at the young man, coming closer and trying to distinguish whether there was a light smile or ridicule hanging on the edges of his mouth. Xiaomei mentally gravitated towards Xiaoyan. Suddenly, she felt as if she had lost something. 3 years ago, that young man, on the edge of his mouth, had that intoxicating curve. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.